delegates of the Youth Assembly on Comhairle.
Please stand.
C'est vous. Bienvenue à tout le monde à Leinster House aujourd'hui. Mar Comhairle Dáil is mailim fáilte choróibh go léir go dtí an cruinniú stairiúil seo. The Ceann na nó go tarsúil an seo maidin iniu is seomra Dáil éireann. Is cuí agus is umchaí ar fad go ndéan for iniucha díospóireacht agus áitimh madidir le ceantada na dúchláin mór in ar linn. Mar a bé an dúchláin is mór fad é, I grí ar tradiisiún den láthig farlamentig. Is mór is clí sibse una de ar an lún óige, a bheith bailithe le chéile an seo maidin iniu, ré blian comórtha céad blian na céad dála. As Comhairle of Dáil Éireann, I wish to welcome you to this historic meeting of the Youth Assembly held this morning in the Chamber of Dáil Éireann. It is entirely fitting and appropriate that one of the greatest challenges of our time, if not the greatest challenge, should be explored, debated and argued here in the cauldron of our democratic parliamentary tradition. It is particularly appropriate that you representatives of our younger generation gather here this morning in the centenary year of the first Dáil. That first Dáil met in January 1919 in the Mansion House, just around the corner from here. And those idealistic men, and unfortunately they were all men, they met that cold January morning to create a new Irish Republic from the embers of a broken Europe. 100 years later, as we face the prospect of a broken planet, you gather together to explore practical, meaningful solutions and recommendations to climate change. And I cannot tell you how pleased I am to see so many young faces here in the Dáil chamber. Many of you are here for the first, you're all here for the first time. Many of you will be back. Again, I'm quite sure of that. I've sat in this chair for almost 4 years, listening to a wide, eclectic mix of topics debated by my fellow Teachtaí Dála. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is your turn to debate the crucial issue of climate change. We, with RTE, have opened the door for you and invited you into the Dáil, which is your Dáil, a Dáil for all of us. The government has said it will listen to what you bring forward from today. In this chamber this morning, you have an ideal opportunity and a real responsibility to bring about changes for us all, 100 years after the first Dáil was established. This Youth Assembly is a major first for us. We are delighted to have teamed up with RTE, our national broadcaster, to put this programme together. And we salute them on the outstanding work that they have done on climate change over the last week. And I thank RTE for what they have done in conjunction with the Oireachtas staff here. And it is an example of national parliament and national broadcaster working constructively in the national interest. You are all well aware of the schedule that we have for today, and I invite you in due course to break off into groups within our committee rooms to discuss in greater detail a number of the issues on today's programme. We will reconvene again here in the Dáil chamber at lunchtime to continue our deliberations. But I would say to you, honour this Dáil chamber, but honour yourselves and your families, and honour the important topic we're debating and exploring here today by giving it proper, serious and thoughtful consideration. This is all we ask, and this is something that I'm quite certain you will do. In conclusion, and speaking as the oldest person in the room, I admire you all enormously for the achievements that have got you here today. I feel, and I know that a lot of fear has been engendered in relation to the issue of climate change. We should all be worried about the future of our planet. That goes without saying. But can I say to you, pure, white, nerve-tingling fear will not serve you, me, or the rest of us all as we seek solutions. As Comhairle and as a long-time public representative, I know that we don't solve problems by frightening people. We older people should be ashamed of the planet we're now passing on to you. You have serious issues to address to make this world a safe, habitable space in which to live for the decades ahead. But generating fear, worry and upset, it will definitely generate headlines and will bring attention to this issue. But as you prepare to break up into different groups now in the committee rooms, I would say to you, leave fear at the door and enter your discussions with optimism, with realism and with knowledge. I wish you well with your deliberations. I understand we will now hear some introductory remarks from our first speaker, who also represents the Power Group, all the way from Donegal. I call on Conall O'Boyle. Conall, where are you?
Comhairle. It is a great honour for me to welcome the eyes and ears of Ireland to the Dáil chamber today. On behalf of all the delegates here, we'd like to start by thanking you for opening the doors of this historic building and for allowing us to engage in such a conversation that has for so long been overlooked and undermined. This is a day that will go down in the history of our state, and although it is a proud moment for all of us here today, I personally feel it's a shame we need to be here in the first place. This shouldn't be a proud day for those in government, and this should not be used as another exercise in PR for them. The fact that we are sitting in their seats today should serve as a massive embarrassment to them, and I hope it is, as they have embarrassed this country on an international level when it comes to climate action. If the Kids Are United, as an old punk song by Sham 69 comes to mind, and in particular the lyrics, just take a look around you, what do you see? Kids with feelings like you and me. Understand him, he'll understand you, for you are him and he is you. If the kids are united, then we'll never be divided. For over 12 months, young people in this country, just like young people all over the world, have organised and participated in strikes the likes of which this world has never seen before. And the kids are united, united behind the science that proves that we're currently in the fast lane, propelling ourselves towards catastrophic climate breakdown. And unless we do something radical now, we will stay in that fast lane until it is too late to move off it. Seán rud atá ag taistil ón ís óg sa tír seo le bliana nuas na níomh airde inis, níomh airde inis, níomh airde inis. Anis tá an dura seo oscailte agah gur féidir linn é a phlé. Tá siúil agan nuair a chagan mud an siomra seo don dearna anocht, nag faghbhí siamh ar smuointe ar conas Ellen Glass a Janov Darren ar an shelf. Cosú le galore policíthe glasa ella. They can lie to my face, but not to my heart. If we all stand together, it'll just be the start. If the kids are united, then we'll never be divided.
Conall, you seem particularly comfortable in that seat. And I suspect we'll see you returning here in the not-too-distant future. Our next speaker is from County Mayo, from Clare Morris, in fact, and that's Sheedy Monaghan. Where are you, Sheedy? Tá sí an sin.
Thank you. Right off the bat, I would like to thank RTE and the Oireachtas for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Economics Group and for listening to and giving us youth a voice in the time of crisis. To allow us and our country to continue to grow and thrive, it is vital that everyone's voices are heard. I've met so many intelligent and impressive young people here today with so many ideas, answers and solutions, and it is incredibly important to hear your views and discuss them, as it's not only our future, it's our present. Economics is central to the climate crisis, and it affects all of us. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. Unfortunately, nothing is for free, and every advancement we take has a budget. When discussing these proposals, we must consider cost and funding and how that approach will impact in other areas in need of funding. But how many of us have paused to consider the costs of doing nothing? The costs of tropical storms in coastal towns, the costs of high levels of flooding in rural areas. In figures, these costs of these disasters add up to the thousands and millions. But the total number of fatalities due to Storm Lorenzo alone was 10. That is 10 lives too many. We often speak of the consequences of climate change to take place far from now. But those 10 lives are proof that those statements could not be more incorrect. The consequences are right now, and ignoring this and continuing on as normal is inhumane, cruel, and not an option. So when I ask, how much do we have to lose to call climate change an emergency, a crisis? How much must we lose until we invest all of this money and funding into preventing these disasters? The answer should be far from a life. Any threat to humanity is an emergency, and this one is no different. It is dangerous to treat this as anything less than a crisis, dangerous to lives. But in reality, it takes millions of euros worth of damages, millions of students giving up a day of their weekly education, and thousands of lives lost to call this and treat it as a crisis. When it comes down to it, the question we need to ask is not, can we afford this, but how can we afford this? Because, to be frank, climate action is not something we can simply choose not to do. It's do or die. In the midst of climate chaos, we owe it to the lives of those lost due to these disasters to answer the question, how can we guarantee fair economic growth and flourish while saving and sustaining our environment and ecosystems with clear, secure solutions? And that is exactly what we are all here today to do. In the economics group, we will be focusing on proposals regarding money, taxes, funding, budgets, costs, etc. I am immensely proud of everyone in this room, and I have great confidence in you all. I wish you the best of luck and to enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, Shiri, and we go back now to Comhairle O'Boyle to hear some words from him from the Power Group.
Again, Comhairle. As I speak today on behalf of the Power Group, I can only promise those young people watching today that we will try to answer your questions on power. And it is really important that we address power as it is the biggest contributor to climate breakdown in this world. As well as being the biggest problem, power also has a key role to play in the solution to climate breakdown, and solving the power challenge will set us on the road to solving the full energy challenge. We've seen totally inadequate support for renewable energy and unwillingness to include the environmental damage into the price we pay for energy and unsustainable planning policies. These are examples that when it comes to the transition to low-carbon energy sources, this government is completely missing the point, and that, Comhairle, is an embarrassment. Comhairle, the purpose of the Youth Assembly here today is to come up with recommendations that this House will take seriously long after we leave here today. And when we return for the evening session, I have no doubt that we will have 10 great proposals from across the spectrum, but I know for certain that from the Power and Energy Group, we will present 2 recommendations to the House that exemplify the type of radical action that young people in this country have been calling out for. For those who don't want to hear it, the harsh reality is that we are far too dependent on fossil fuels in this country. Our elected representatives are still granting licences to drill off our west coast, proving for definite that the cause of climate strikers are falling on deaf ears. The commissioning of the Seán liquefied natural gas terminal is going to be so catastrophic that celebrities like Cher and Mark Ruffalo are publicly condemning this government on their action. That's an embarrassment. And Bord Pleanála first granted permission for the project in 2008. That's since expired. However, developers are currently lodging a new application. Why? I'll tell you why. Because economic growth is far higher on this country's agenda than environmental security. Why are the government not divesting in these harmful practices? Because economic growth is far higher on this country's agenda than environmental security. It's economic growth, and economic growth. The delegates in the Power Group look forward to coming back to you this afternoon with radical solutions to the power question. and we sincerely hope that some of these ideas can be endorsed by the government in the near future. I agree with Leo Varadkar when he says that this transition cannot happen overnight, but everything is done quicker when it starts today.
Thank you very much, Conall. We move now to a young voice from Cork, to Alma Victoria Kraus, who is going to speak to us on behalf of the Food and Farming Group.
Thank you very much.
Is just 15, I think.
16, just there.
16. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you here.
So, agriculture accounts for 1/3 of all our Irish greenhouse gas emissions, making it pivotal to tackle. Only 1.7% of all our Irish soil is organic. Only 10% of Irish soil is covered with trees, making our country the lowest forestry covered in the EU. Climate change allows for the waters in the ocean to expand and rainfall to decrease, seriously threatening our national resources, such as fish and arable land. Current farming methods are limiting the biodiversity and damaging our soils, which can act like giant sponges for the absorption of CO2. There's a very harsh, raw truth behind a cup of milk or a piece of steak, as both the production of meats and dairy are highly industrialised. Is it acceptable to spend 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forest, 20 pounds of CO2, and the life of an animal for the simple degustation of our taste buds? It takes 2,400 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of wheat, contrasting it to 20 gallons of water to 1 pound of wheat. This is a clear example of an unsustainable farming system and a clear example of a solution. There is a massive urge and demand for more plant-based foods, adding to a positive social change while protecting and defending animal exploitation. Whether we think meat production and consumption is justifiable or not, 68% of greenhouse methane derives from dairy consumption alone. Therefore, we all must agree that meat and dairy consumption needs to ferociously reduce. When referring to air miles, the exportation and importation of goods is central to the economy. However, 15% of CO2 is contributed by the aviation industry alone. This should provoke us to inquire whether or not we must purchase strawberries in November. We must start eating consciously, locally, and seasonally for all of us to make a difference. Apart from discussing realistic action plans to be put into place, we will take into account reforestation, something that the EU has already acted upon. However, we feel isn't enough due to our high national carbon footprint, being the 3rd highest greenhouse gas emitting country in the EU. A fully mature tree can absorb up to 48 pounds of CO2 a year, making it thus far an efficient solution to drop our national levels of CO2 emission. We can only imagine how much we could achieve by only planting more Irish native deciduous trees. But that's not going to be our case. We want to be the leading country for climate action. We urge for you to be open to change. We want to make a difference, but it must be a collective effort and mutual support in order to move forward as a nation. Whomever is and will be employed in the food and agriculture industry should be informed on the future changes and be rightfully supported. We stand with you.
Alma, thank you for that thought-provoking contribution. We move next to hear from our youngest key speaker from Ballinasloe in County Galway. We call on Caitlin Culleton. Caitlin, where are you? Good.
Hello.
You're very welcome, Caitlin.
My fellow Assembly members and citizens of Ireland, I am here to speak on behalf of the Environment Group. I ask your attention. Our environment is critical to the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we grow, and the places we swim, play and walk. It is key to our health and well-being. Our environment also supports plants, animals and ecosystems. Healthy ecosystems and rich biodiversity are fundamental to life on our planet. All this means that we need to look after our environment because we need to be able to look after us. The environment can be damaged by pollution and change that is caused by humans through how we make things, our choices, and how we consume. The more we don't care about the environment, the more it will become polluted with contamination and waste that have harmful impacts. Climate change and the destruction it will cause is a worldwide threat. We need to work collectively, both nationally and globally, to act on climate change before it is too late. Global warming is leading to heating and acidification of the oceans, melting of ice sheets, the destruction of soil, and alterations to our weather systems. This is causing sea levels to rise, as well as extreme weather events, such as snowstorms, droughts, heat waves, and flooding. As climate change alters temperature and weather patterns, it will also impact on animal life and plants. What this all means is that the challenges will be different for both communities and biodiversity across Ireland and across the world. And sadly, some of the poorest and most vulnerable people and ecosystems will be worst affected. Scientists have been warning about climate change for over 30 years, but no one was listening. As the great environmental activist Greta Thunberg says, we need to unite behind the science and get things done. There is no time left for deniers and those who put things off. There are a few areas we need to work on, such as eliminating fossil fuel use, increasing waste prevention, as well as halting deforestation and biodiversity loss. Fossil fuel use, including here in Ireland, the harvesting and burning of peat raises serious environmental concerns, as it is the single largest source of greenhouse gases globally. This can be reduced greatly by just switching to renewable energy in electricity, transport, heating and cooling. When we cut our bogs, we destroy a globally important carbon store, and when we burn the peat from these bogs, we release even more carbon. This must stop. The Environment Group, which I represent, will be convening to debate positive change nationally and globally to decide on 2 key proposals for action. We can all play a part and we can all play a difference. In fact, I would say we all have to play a part and have to do things differently. It is not an option, as anything less than collective, determined and enduring action only can be regarded as short-sighted and reckless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. Do you know what? You're proof positive that age is no barrier to clarity of thought. So thank you very much for that contribution. We move next then to hear from the Education Group, and Eric Ahidja is our spokesman. He's 17, and unusually, he's, I think, are you one of the few delegates who are actually in university at this stage?
Yeah, first, yeah.
You're very welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Comhairle. For me, I'm good, Comhairle. My name is Eric Ahidja, and I am the designated spokesperson for the Youth Assembly on Climate Education Group, a collective bundle of young activists assembled for the common goal of finding ways to tackle the climate emergency with educational solutions. Firstly, I would like to extend my appreciation to all the delegates that are present for putting themselves forward to partake in such a meritorious initiative. I'd also like to thank all the students that are watching this in their classrooms and the viewers that are watching at home or elsewhere for tuning in to the Youth Assembly on Climate. This is indisputably a historic day for our national parliament, for the youth movement, for the global fight for climate justice, and for the Emerald Isle. Education, as noted by the African-American civil rights activist Malcolm X, is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those that prepare for it today. And tomorrow, according to some of the world's finest scientists, is not promised to humanity if we continue to exacerbate our environmentally destructive actions. Tomorrow does not concern the older generation as much as it does the youth of our nation, but tomorrow is a day that we must protect intergenerationally, regardless of your age, identity, or beliefs. Ergo, we must prepare for the future, and education is one of the primary means through which we must do it. It is incredibly significant that the Education Group will be discussing answers by which the government, everyone watching at home or in their classrooms, and people from across the world must adopt to strengthen our punch to the core of the climate crisis. Personally, I believe that one must know before they can do. And as a nation, we must educate ourselves about the severity of climate change and all of its neighbouring cataclysmic disasters in order for us to then understand what we can do to tackle them. At the moment, due to a lack of knowledge, there are many doubters who shrug off the environmental warnings being projected by scientific research. Through educational solutions like the ones that will be proposed today, we plan to inform everyone watching, especially the politicians, about why there is no benefit in polluting our environment and destroying our planet, as there is no planet B. Education was the driving force that put a halt to discrimination within Europe after the Second World War. It lessened the blow of segregation in the USA following the Jim Crow era. It brought our island to peace through the Good Friday Agreement, and I wholeheartedly believe that through education, we can bring everyone with us into the eco-friendly fight against climate change. So no matter who you are and where you are, today is a day that must be celebrated by all. It is the day where the youth of Ireland come together to propose ideas that will ultimately better our nation. So whether you are at home, So whether you're at home watching this on your television, streaming this event live in your classrooms, or on the go and watching this on an electronic device, I advise you all to listen attentively to all the ideas that are put forward today, as very soon you may be subject to them. We as the Education Group will soon be convening to discuss and decide on 2 fundamental proposals for action, so stay tuned. Comhairle Mahagat, thank you very much.
Eric, thank you for a very articulate contribution. You, like the 4 previous speakers, strike me as someone who is particularly comfortable here in this environment also. Can I also thank each of the contributors for the fact that you have stuck so rigidly to the time allowed. One of the tasks and challenges I have here is to try and keep party leaders in particular to their time limits. And I have found that they are mostly horologically challenged. They don't read the clock very well, and we often have clashes over that particular matter. So thank you. Do you know, in each of the 4 years that I've been here, I've come to work every morning happy and with something of a bounce in my step. But coming here this morning, I came with a particular sense of enthusiasm and hope and expectation. And I know from what we've already heard that neither I nor anyone else here will leave disappointed. We can do valuable work here today. And think about this. Some months ago, you stood on the streets outside in Dublin and in Cork, and young people all over the world stood in their city capitals and outside their parliaments, and they issued a clarion call, a wake-up call to their politicians. You know, that hasn't happened in Ireland or in many parts of the world for many years. When I was younger, we had young people across the world taking very firm and clear action on matters around nuclear disarmament, human rights and peace. So it is so phenomenally important that you young people in the Ireland of today have grasped this critical issue and are providing leadership to our leaders and to our parliamentarians. So think about, as you go into your groups now, think about the symbolism of having moved from outside the gates, raising your voices, issuing the wake-up call, to the fact that you're now inside here, in the place where the decisions are made. So go now to your committee rooms, have your detailed debates, come back with your proposals, and let us guarantee each other that we will all work to ensure that those proposals and that those recommendations are not just heard, but are also actioned. Comhairle Mahagat galéir agus gnairi gagyal live leis an obair atá le teachtain ish san céad cúpla uair clig eile. Agus feice méid a rás sibh an seo hartfa am lón. Comhairle Mahagat ar fad. Tá sesiún in ish taga chun deire.